Hey, welcome back, guys. We have a massive update today for those of you who are on Social Security benefits and SSDI. There's a lot of headlines here and a lot of kind of videos and news articles saying that essentially the COLA increase is not going to be 8.7% for a large majority of people, folks, right? So is this clickbait? Is this true? Now, first of all, at the beginning of the show, I want to let you guys know it's actually true. It's not clickbait, but in this video, I'm going to describe exactly what these articles are talking about, who exactly this affects and who it doesn't affect. And if it doesn't affect you, to what extent will it affect you, right? How do you calculate exactly what your COLA will be if it is slightly different from 8.7%, right? And surprisingly, the large majority of people will be affected by this, guys. So let's jump into it. It's going to be a quick update here, but I'm going to really show you how to calculate your own COLA based off of what they call the PIA. Really quick, guys, as always, if you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, if you want to support my work, you'll get free stocks. Click the link in the description of this video. It's our partner Webull. They're completely registered and insured, completely legitimate company. They let you buy and sell stocks. If you sign up fully with an account and deposit even just one penny, you're going to get 12 free stocks valued up to $3,000 each. I'll get a free stock as well. You guys could sell the stock immediately if you'd like and take the money. So if you want to support my work and get some free money, click the link in the description of this video. All right, guys, with that said, the headlines are saying why not everyone will get an 8.7% COLA increase. All right, so to quickly explain what they're talking about, COLA obviously is your annual cost of living adjustment, right? And you'll see the headline say 8.7. And you'll basically say, okay, I'm getting, for example, $1,000 a month. I'm going to times that by 1.087, and that's my benefit. Well, technically, that's not the exact way to do it, right? If you want to be precise. And this is mainly due to what they call PIA. Now, PIA is essentially your full retirement benefit, right? So let's say full retirement age for you was 66. If you took your retirement benefits at 66, your PIA is essentially just your full retirement benefit. So this video really won't apply to you, right? But for those of you who took Social Security benefits either before full retirement age or after full retirement age, there's kind of a slight calculation which will lead to a slightly different COLA, right? For some people, it'll be a kind of a big difference in what their COLA actually is. But for a large majority of people, it's going to be a small difference, right? But it's worth knowing what that difference is because, with everyone being on a fixed income, every dollar here counts, right? So essentially, let's take a quick look, right? So recipients will soon get their 8.7% COLA increase. But what they're saying here is that according to the SSA, the Social Security Administration, the PIA is the benefit you would get if you elected to begin receiving benefits at your full retirement age, right? Like we spoke about just a second ago. Now, the PIA is a little bit complicated, but essentially what they'll do is they'll penalize you for taking your benefits early, right? So let's take a quick look here. Let's say you were bored. This is directly on the Social Security Administration's website. Let's say you were bored after 1960 and you took benefits at 62. This chart here shows that you would get 70% of your benefit, right? So they essentially take your full retirement benefit, multiply that by zero point 0.7 or 70%, and that's what you'll actually get, right? Now, on its face, it looks like, okay, well, it's essentially the same thing, right? My full retirement benefit goes up by 8.7%. It's basically the same thing. It's a percentage. But because of some rounding rules, right? They round these numbers, you'll end up with a slightly different COLA than you otherwise would have, right? And I'm actually going to I'm going to calculate this here for you guys so you guys can see exactly what yours would be. Okay, I'm going to give you an example as if you were making $1,000 a month. Okay, so let's take a quick look here. Let's take a look, first of all, at the Social Security Administration's website, right? Now, a COLA increase is a person's Social Security retirement benefit by approximately the product of the COLA and the benefit amount. See how they have approximately italicized? They want to really emphasize approximately because, surprisingly, it does slightly differ from the headline COLA if you took benefits outside of your full retirement year, right? Either above or below. Now, the exact computation is slightly more complex, so I'm going to show you guys how to calculate that right here in a second. So again, let's say, for example, let me pull up a couple things here so I can really show you guys this. So I've got my calculator here. Let's pull up, let's see. All right, so we've got this here. All right, hopefully you guys can see that. So let's say your benefit is $1,000 a month, right? That's what you already get. And you're going to tell yourself, okay, well, the COLA is 8.7. So I'm going to take my 1,000 a month and I'm going to multiply that by 1.087, right? That's typically kind of the common sense way of doing it. So then your new benefit would be $1,087 a month. Now, let's take a look at how to actually exactly calculate this. This is why they're saying that the large majority of people won't actually get exactly an 8.7% COLA, right? And actually, the large majority of people will be affected by this. So, let's say, for example, you are getting $1,000 a month. Now, let's say initially your PIA, just to make things easy here, right? We're not going to use the exact number. Let's say it should have been 1,300 a month, right? So that was your full retirement benefit. And then, well, let me quickly try and do the math here. 1,300 times zero point 0.7, 1,400 times. Okay. So we'll say 1,400. It's not exact, but it's close. So 1,400 is your PIA, basically your full retirement benefit. But then you only actually end up getting about, give or take, your 1,000 a month, right? Because you retired at 62, so you got that 70% benefit, that penalty kind of for taking it early, right? Now, technically, the COLA is going to be applied to this, to the PIA, right? So what they're going to do is, so let's take that 1,400. You should be able to see this calculator on your screen here. Multiply it by 1.087, and then you get your new benefit of 1,000. Sorry, one sec here. First, what we have to do is take your $1,400 a month and multiply that by zero point 0.7, because that's what you would have been getting, right? So now that's 980 a month. So now the numbers are getting a little trickier here, but bear with me, folks. So that's 980 a month. So now let's take, for example, the 1,400. Sorry, let's take the 980, multiply it by 1.087. So now your new benefit is $1,065 a month and 26 cents, right? So essentially the issue here, and I'm going to try and get to the point here, because bear with me, guys. Let's try and jump to the point here. Essentially the issue is they're going to round these numbers a couple of times, right? So if you see here, this is on the official Social Security Administration website. This factor is applied to the PIA, and then it is rounded down to the lowest dime, right? So you end up losing that dime there, right? And then once that dime is taken off, then any offset to the benefit, such as Medicare, is subtracted as well. So then they subtract that Medicare payment. And then once they subtract that Medicare payment, they're also going to round it down to the nearest dollar, right? So you're losing that 10 cents, and then you're losing that dollar after the Medicare gets rounded. So that's really what they're talking about here, folks. That's the main difference. And for example, here, let's give a simple example, okay? Let's kind of take this out and make it easier, right? Just this is a completely basic example. Let's say you get $100 a month, right? And you multiply that by 1.087, 1.087 times 100. So now your new benefit you're calculating is going to be 108 and 7 cents, right? But essentially what they do is, let's say, for example, this came out to 108.75. They're going to round that down to 108.7 immediately. You get that 10% round down, right? Then they're going to subtract your Medicare or Medicaid, your Medicare payment. And actually this year, surprisingly, like we've talked about before, it's going down $5.20. So let's subtract the $5.20, and that brings it down to 103. Sorry, we're going to add the $5.20. So we have the $1.08, $108.07 plus the $5.20. Now you have 113 right? But now they're going to round this down to the nearest dollar. So although technically normally when you would round things, you'd just round to the nearest number, so you'd be at 114, they're actually going to round this down to 113 even, right? So typically what ends up happening and what the point of this video is normally unless you took full retirement benefits exactly at 70 or at your full retirement year, you're not going to get that exact 8.7% cola, right? That's really the point of what these articles are saying, right? When you see these headlines saying that social security why everyone will not get an 8.7% cola increase, that is essentially what they're talking about because of all these rounding rules, right? So first, like I said before, they're going to apply the 8.7% to your full retirement benefit, right? Then they're going to round that down to the nearest 10 cents. Then they're going to multiply that by 0.7%, right? That's really the point here, okay? Because really, you take your full retirement benefit, you multiply it by 0.7%, by zero point 0.7 if you retired at 62. But really, first, what they're doing is they're rounding down by 10 cents. Then they're taking the zero point 0.7. Then they're also subtracting the Medicare premium, right? And this year, luckily enough, you're actually going to get an additional $5 back. So your premium's going down. So, in a sense, not technically, but in a sense, you're kind of getting a bigger cola, right? And that $5 percentage wise is small for the majority of people, right? Especially if your benefit is relatively large. But if you're getting, $800, $900 a month or $1,000 a month, $5 can be substantial, right? That can be a substantial percentage, especially for folks out there who are trying to make a living and trying to survive off their benefit, right? And given, especially right now, that the average retirement benefit is about $1,480 per month, I mean, those extra $5, $10 could really make a massive difference, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, for those of you who are just joining, I want to quickly recap exactly what we're talking about, right? Now, for those of you who read the headline of my video titled, Were You Affected? Why Social Security COLA Wasn't 8.7%. Want to clarify exactly what we're talking about here, right? And the reason I want to address this is because there's tons of headlines out there and tons of videos saying Social Security, why everyone will not get an 8.7% COLA increase. Okay, so what exactly does this mean? Who exactly does it affect? And how do you calculate exactly how much it will affect you? Okay, well, first of all, the surprising thing is this does affect the majority of people on Social Security benefits. Unless you started taking benefits at full retirement age, which for most of you is 66 or 67, this will affect you, right? That's kind of the shocking part. Now, the good news is it's a very marginal difference. It won't make a massive, massive difference, really. I mean, it's going to have, a few dollars of a difference here, so it's tough if it cuts you down, especially when you're on a fixed income, but it's not going to be this massive, massive difference, right? And I'm going to show you here exactly what it is and exactly how to calculate how much this affects you, right? So let's actually go straight to the Social Security Administration's website. Now, a COLA increases a person's Social Security retirement benefit by approximately the product of the COLA and the benefit amount. The exact computation, however, is more complex. See, keyword here is approximately. They even have it italicized. Let me zoom in there a little bit. I'm not sure if you guys can see that very well. Now, this is going to talk about how COLA is technically calculated, right? And how this technically makes a slight difference in what your COLA ends up being. Now, each Social Security benefit is based on a primary insurance amount, or what they call PIA. The PIA, in turn, is directly related to the primary beneficiary's earnings through a benefit formula. It is the PIA that is increased by the COLA, with the result truncated to the next lower dime. All right, so let's say this in English, right? Basically, the PIA is your full retirement benefit, okay? So when you took Social Security, they told you, hey, let's say, for example, you're 62. If you take it at 66, let's say 66 was full retirement age, this is what your full retirement benefit's going to be. That's essentially what your PIA is, okay? Now, if you take it early, let's say you took it at 62, you're going to get penalized, right? And if you pull up this chart here, if you took benefits, if you were born on 1960 or later, if you took benefits at 62, you're only getting 70% of your benefit, right? So let's back up here. So essentially, what most people do is they take their benefit to calculate their COLA, multiply it by 1.087, and boom, you get a rough estimate of what your COLA is going to be. For most people, that's not your exact COLA, right? It's slightly different. We'll show you why. So basically, what they do here is they will calculate your PIA, but then they round it down to the nearest dime, okay? To the nearest dime. So let's kind of give you guys a little example here. And I'm going to do the math here so you guys can see it, okay? Let me just slide this over here. Oh, shoot. One sec. Let me pull up that calculator. Okay. So let's say you're getting $100 a month. Well, let's do this actually. So let's say your PIA is $100 a month, okay? Hope you guys can see that. $100 a month. They're going to multiply it by 1.087. To make this example better, we're going to say 0.875, okay? Just bear with me here, okay? Now it's saying your new COLA is going to be 108.75. But what they do is they lower it to the nearest dime, right? So that 75 cents, they're actually going to lower that to 108.7, okay? If that makes sense. So it's like 5 or 6 cents, whatever it might be. If it ends up being, 75 cents, 76 cents, they're going to lower that to 70. They're not going to round up. They're always going to round down. And then they take that number, and that's the number they multiply by 70%, or whatever percentage they have to multiply it in your specific situation, right? Like I said earlier, this can be a little complex, but for most people watching the show are born after 1960, right? So if you took it at 62, if you see here, let me zoom out a little so it's a little better to see it. If you took your benefits at 62, your benefit is cut down to 70%. If you take it at 63, it's 75% of your PIA or your full retirement benefit, then 80%, and so forth, right? Now, a lot of people on my channel took it at 62, so let's go with 70%. So the reason it's different is because it's rounded down to the nearest 10 cents first, then multiplied by 0.7%, right? So let's multiply that by 0.7%. So you see you get 76.09. So you end up losing a few cents basically, right? That's essentially the point here. You lose a few cents. Then the next step that throws things off slightly is Medicare. So then they subtract, after this part, they subtract your Medicare premium, which if we look over here, Medicare premiums right now are $164.90. They'll subtract that. And then once they subtract that, let's go back to the SSA website here. Once they subtract the Medicare premium, then they're going to round down to the nearest dollar, further reducing it even slightly, right? Now, again, these differences are minute. It's a couple of dollars. For the average person, I mean, this probably adds up to a few dollars a month. And then when you think about the percentage, the 8.7%, I mean, maybe it's an 8.6%, 8.5%, depending on your benefit, right? The larger your benefit is, the less of an effect percentage-wise these few dollars are going to make, right? But if you're only getting, $800 a month, $10 could be a massive difference, right? Practically speaking, and from a percentage standpoint. But if we look at the SSA website, Social Security Administration, they say that the COLA is applied to the PIA, right? Which is the full retirement benefit. Then rounded down to the nearest dime, like we spoke about. Then to fully offset this by Medicare, they subtract the Medicare premium, right? And then once they subtract the Medicare premium, then they round down to the nearest dollar again. And then all of this is multiplied by this factor here, depending on when you retired, right? Which for most people, it's 70%. So you see, because of these rounding rules, right? Rounding down first to the nearest dime upon COLA being applied to PIA, then rounding down to the nearest dollar after subtracting the Medicare premium. This is why your COLA, unless you retired at full retirement age, ends up being slightly less than 8.7%, right? And again, not a massive difference for most people, but most people are affected. And it's just another way where you kind of feel like, you know what? You're getting shafted in so many ways with these benefits, right? Like these benefits have not been increasing adequately as they should have over the last, 20 years or so, especially. Why not round up, right? Round up for the good folks. Give them the extra $5, $6, $7, whatever it might be. Help the folks out, right? Because I mean, these $5, $6 across 70 million people on benefits, it's going to save the government some money, right? So that's essentially what's going on here, folks. Let me know your thoughts on that. Let me know if you can apply this to your benefit. If you want to take the time to fully calculate this, it's a little bit complex, but rewind this video and you can definitely apply this to your own circumstance as well. That letter they sent you from the administration, that should basically break this down as well too. Just really wanted to show this to you guys. I will recap this again. For those of you who just joined the show, I'm going to recap what we're talking about here, who it affects, and how to exactly calculate how much it affects you. And again, surprisingly, the majority of people are affected by this. But really quick, I want to share this clip from Senator Bernie Sanders, folks, talking about his proposed plan, the Social Security Expansion Act, how not only would it increase benefits for people basically across the board, but it would also make Social Security solvent for 75 more years. I mean, let's get this done, right? Let's play this quick clip from Bernie Sanders and see exactly what he said.
Social Security is, I think, as everybody knows, one of the most popular and successful government programs in the history of our nation. For more than 80 years, in good times and bad, Social Security has paid out every benefit owed to every eligible American on time and without delay. And I think it's important to make that point. We live in a moment of great insecurity, and yet Social Security, since its inception, has never failed the American people and remains a program enormously important to them and one that they can rely upon. Not once over more than 8 decades of operation, not during the pandemic that we're in, not during the Wall Street crash, has anyone ever received a letter or a phone call from the Social Security Administration saying, sorry, the economy is not doing well, we need to cut your benefits? Never happened. And if I have anything to say about it, it never will happen. Today, while many people take Social Security for granted, it's been around for a long time, let us remember, before Social Security was created in 1935, about half of our nation's seniors were living in poverty. Today, though the poverty rate is still too high for seniors, that rate is just 8.9%. 50% before Social Security, less than 9% today. Got to do better, but that is a significant improvement. Without Social Security, it is estimated that some 22 million Americans, including more than 16 million seniors, would be living in poverty. Yet, despite this important success, we should be clear that tens of millions of senior citizens are still struggling today to make ends meet, and many older workers are scared to death, literally frightened to death, that they will never be able to retire with any shred of dignity. According to the most recent data that I have seen, 12% of seniors in America are trying to live on an income of less than $10,000 a year. Got that? 12% less than $10,000 a year. I don't know how anyone can live, seniors or otherwise, on less than $10,000. And equally important, 55% of seniors are trying to survive on less than $25,000 a year. Think about that. And when you're a senior, you're dependent on prescription drugs and healthcare, trying to keep your home warm, trying to make it. On 25,000 years, that's more than half of the seniors in America. Adding insult to injury, and this is an enormously important point that I think we don't make often enough, about half of older Americans, those who are 55 years of age and older, have no retirement savings. Got that? You're 55 years of age in America, you've worked your whole life, you got zero in the bank for when you retire. And they are dependent on a Social Security benefit today that is less than $1,540 a month on average. Now, despite what some politicians have been saying for years, Social Security today is not on the line going broke. Social Security has a $2.85 trillion surplus in its trust fund and can pay out every benefit owed to every eligible American for the next 13 years, okay? Social Security, you pay out all your benefits for the next 13 years. But what the actuaries want, what I want, what I think most people want is more than 13 years. The actuaries talk about 75 years being the kind of number that we should have as we go forward. After that 13 years, Social Security estimates that there will be enough funding. Social Security Administration estimates that there will be enough funding available to pay 80% of promised benefits. So you got all benefits for the next 13 years, 80% after that. Now, given that reality, our job, in my view, is not to cut Social Security, is not to raise the retirement age, as many of my Republican colleagues would have us do. Our job is to expand Social Security so that everyone in America can retire with the dignity that he or she deserves, and that every person in this country with a disability can retire with the security they need. And that is what the Social Security Expansion Act that I have introduced today, along with Senators Warren, Whitehouse, Merkley, Van Hollen, Padilla, Booker, and Gillibrand, is all about. This legislation has been endorsed by many, many organizations, including the AFL-CIO, the Alliance for Retired Americans, Social Security Works, the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, the American Federation of Teachers, and many, many other organizations. According to a letter, this is an important part of what this hearing is about today, according to a letter that I received from the Social Security Administration this morning, this legislation will fully fund Social Security for the next 75 years and expand benefits for senior citizens and people with disabilities. Now, how do we do that? How do you expand benefits and make Social Security solvent for the next 75 years, which is, I think, what the American people want? Well, the answer is not complicated. At a time of massive income and wealth inequality, at a time when billionaires pay an effective tax rate lower than the average working person, at a time when the very richest people in this country are becoming much richer, this legislation demands that the wealthiest people in this country start paying their fair share of taxes. Today, absurdly and grossly unfairly, there is a cap on income subject to Social Security taxes. That cap is now about $147,000 a year. Now, what does that mean? It means that if you are a multi-billionaire, you pay the same amount of money into Social Security as someone who makes $147,000 a year. Got that? It means that if you make $147,000 a year, you pay 6.2% of your income in Social Security taxes. But if you make 10 times more than that, $1,470,000, you pay 0.6% of your income in Social Security taxes. All of this is taking place at a time of massive income and wealth inequality. Now, that may make sense to somebody. It does not make sense to me. Our legislation applies the Social Security payroll tax on all income, including capital gains and dividends, for those who make over $250,000 a year. Under this legislation, 93.6% of households would not see their taxes go up by 1 penny. So the overwhelming majority of the American people would not see any increase in their taxes under this proposal. The tax increase in our legislation only applies to the wealthiest 6.4% of all Americans, those who make $250,000 a year or more. Further and importantly, under this bill, Social Security benefits would be increased by $2,400 a year for both new and existing recipients, lifting millions of seniors out of poverty.
That's the big one,
In
folks.
addition, under this bill, we would increase COLAs for senior citizens by more accurately measuring the spending pattern for senior citizens
That's a
through
big
the
one,
Consumer
too.
Price Index for the elderly. Now, one of the reasons that I called this hearing, and I'm glad that Senator Graham has been able to be here, is that there is, in fact, a strong philosophical difference between many of us in the Democratic caucus and many in the Republican caucus as to the best way forward with regard to Social Security. And that's kind of the discussion we're going to have today. While virtually all members of the Democratic caucus are on record in support of expanding Social Security benefits, the Republicans, by and large, have taken a very different approach. And I'm delighted, and I hope they will show up, that some of the Republicans who have taken strong positions on this issue, I see Senator Romney's here, and I'm glad that is the case. Look forward to hearing from him. That some of the Republicans who have taken strong positions on this issue are on this committee. And I know that they're going to be explaining where they come from, and I look forward to that debate. Earlier this year, Senator Rick Scott, the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, released a plan that would sunset Social Security every 5 years, raise taxes on millions of seniors, and jeopardize the guaranteed income of 65 million Americans who depend on Social Security. Just a few months ago, the Republican Study Committee in the House introduced a bill that would raise the Social Security retirement age to 69 years of age over the next 8 years and privatize Social Security by allowing employers to divert payroll tax dollars into less generous private retirement accounts. Last year, Senator Romney, who is here with us, has opposed raising taxes on the wealthy to strengthen Social Security, introduced legislation to form a committee to propose cuts to Social Security behind closed doors. In 2020, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell told a Bloomberg reporter that, quote, he hopes to work with the next Democratic president to trim Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, end quote. In 2011, my colleague Senator Graham introduced legislation to raise the full retirement age to 70 by 2032 and index it to longevity. Further, in 2003, Senator Graham introduced a bill that would have cut Social Security benefits for current wage earners by 27%, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Now, as I think everybody knows, I don't often agree with former President Donald Trump. But this is what he said when he was campaigning for president in 2015.
Fortunately,
right.
Trump never did much for
He
seniors
said,
either,
quote,
folks.
every Republican,
But neither
this
has
is the
Biden.
Republican primary, every Republican wants to do a big number on Social Security. They want to do it on Medicare, and they want to do it on Medicaid, end quote. Well, let me be
Let's get it
clear,
done,
we
folks.
cannot allow that to happen. The vast majority
Let's
of the
fix
American
benefits.
people understand that a moral society does not give tax breaks to billionaires and then cut back on the needs of struggling seniors or people with disabilities. In fact, 72% of Americans support increasing, not cutting, Social Security benefits by asking millionaires and billionaires to pay more into the system. So that is where we are right now. It's a great philosophical difference. I look forward to the debate. Some of us think that the very wealthiest people in this country are doing extraordinarily well, should in fact be asked to pay more.
All right, folks, so that was Bernie talking about the Social Security Expansion Act. Just wanted to kind of throw that in here, give you guys a quick update. That's really what he's pushing for with Social Security benefits, hoping Biden gets behind him on that when it really starts pushing that for 2023, right, with the new Congress coming in session starting January 3rd. But let's quickly recap for those of you who just joined, right? What exactly are we talking about in this video? What are we talking about that your COLA might not be 8.7%? Well, headlines everywhere, and people have been going crazy over this, are saying that not everyone will get an 8.7% COLA. And the shocking thing is, this does apply to the majority of people, right? So the majority of people who receive benefits are not going to get the exact 8.7% COLA, right? So the only people who will not be affected by this at all are people who retired at full retirement age. Okay, so if you're retired at full retirement age, this does not apply to you. But everyone else, which is the majority of people, this technically does apply to you. Now, the good news is, like I said previously in today's show, the difference is nominal. It's not a massive difference. I mean, I don't want to sound insensitive because at the end of the day, you know, $5, $10, $20 makes a big difference really when you're living on a fixed income, right? If you don't have your 401k built up, or if you don't have maybe like some kind of a part-time job or a real estate property or something giving you income, you know, 10, $20, that's going to be a massive difference, right? Folks living on a fixed income. But let's calculate first. Let me back up here. Let me summarize exactly what this is, then calculate how you can figure out exactly how this affected you, right? Now, essentially, what they're talking about is what the Social Security Administration is outlining right here on their website, right? So they're saying that a COLA increases a person's Social Security retirement by approximately the product of the COLA and the benefit amount. The exact computation, however, is more complex. So we're going to describe these complexities here. And it's worth noting that they italicized approximately here. Obviously, they really wanted to highlight that, right? Now, each Social Security benefit is based on a primary insurance amount, PIA for short. The PIA, in turn, is directly related to the primary beneficiary's earnings through a benefit formula. It is the PIA that is increased by the COLA. This is important, actually. It is the PIA that is increased by the COLA, with the result truncated to the next dime. See, so the first thing worth noting is the COLA is not applied directly to what your benefit is that you get every month. It's applied to the PIA. And the PIA is just your full retirement benefit, what your benefit would have been if you waited until full retirement age, right? So that's the first thing that's worth noting. Now, the second thing worth noting is that then once they calculate that, it's rounded down to the next dime, okay? So let's say, your benefit would have been $1,548.48. Let's say 49 cents. Even though you're at 49 cents, they're going to round down all the way down to 40 cents. They're not going to round up to be nice because they're close. They're keeping the change, folks, like Donna here in the comments said. I like how you put that, Donna. They're keeping the change. So they're going to round down to the nearest 10 cents. Then they're going to lower your benefit to whatever your benefit should be, right? And if you look on this chart here, this shows you what your benefit is, right? Most of you took benefits at 62. Most of you were born after 1960. So most of you are getting 70% of what your full retirement benefit would have been, right? Or your PIA, as they call it. So they add the COLA to your PIA. Then they round down to the nearest dime, if that makes sense. Then they multiply by zero point 0.7, right? And I have an example here if you guys want to take a look. So let's say your PIA is $1,000, right? That's what your full retirement benefit would have been. Now, if you multiply that by 70%, now you're making $700 a month. Now, let's say you want to apply the COLA. Let's say the COLA, which was it was 8.7%. You apply that to your PIA, that's technically $1,087. Now, you multiply that by 70%, okay? And you end up with 760, right? You end up with 760. Now, if you take that 760, first of all, you have to take into account that if this PIA would have ended up being, let's say, $87.68, they would round down to 60 cents, okay? So if you're doing this with your own numbers, take whatever your PIA would be, and you should be able to find that out either on that letter you got for the Social Security Administration or on your portal. I think it's your My Social Security portal. And you're going to round down to the nearest dime, then multiply it by 0.70, right? So you essentially you end up getting like it adds up to a few cents typically, right? You might get 5, 10, 20 cents less every month than you thought you would have. Then you have your Medicare benefit, right? So then they're going to subtract the Medicare benefit, which this year is $164.90. And then they round down again. This is the next rule to keep in mind to the nearest dollar. Okay. So let's say just to make it easy, let's say in this example, after Medicare, your benefit would have been $596.90. Obviously a low number, but that's just for this example. They're going to round that 90 cents down right there to zero, right? To net $596. So, and then your benefit obviously was multiplied by zero point 0.7 by 70% if you retired at 62. So the point here is, first of all, the COLA is technically not applying directly to your benefit. It's applying to your PIA, which is your full retirement benefit. And there's multiple rounding rules in that process that brings your payment down slightly, right? They round down to the nearest dime after they apply COLA to your PIA. Then they multiply it by zero point 0.7. Then they reduce Medicare. And then they round down to the nearest dollar, right? So because of this, these numbers end up being slightly off from what you would get if you just took your benefit and multiplied it by 1.087 to get your COLA, right? If that makes sense. Now, also worth clarifying, folks, whatever letter you got from the administration saying what your benefit was going to be, that's what your benefit's going to be, okay? I'm just giving you an example here, showing you exactly how they came to that number, right? If that kind of makes sense. So, guys, let me know if that was helpful. Let me know if you're going to calculate your exact benefits. Let me know in the comments below, guys. I'd be really interested in knowing. Also, worth noting, I'm sure at this point you guys have heard, everyone's been talking about this. The Medicare premium actually went down this year, right? So it went down to $164.90 from $170.10, which is an extra $5.20 that's going to remain in your pocket every single month. Now, again, obviously, $5 is $5. But when you're out of fixed income, if your 401k obviously took a hit with the stock market being pummeled, you're trying not to really draw from your 401k. Any extra $5, $10 you can get from Social Security, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to complain about that, right? But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below, guys. Now, again, calculate yours. Calculate your COLA with these numbers I just showed you. If you have to rewind the video and pause it, go ahead and do that. Let me know exactly what yours is. It's not going to be a massive difference, again, unless your benefit is really, really small. Guys, so let's kind of go through this article here. So, and this isn't just Yahoo, guys. A lot of articles are kind of sharing this news here. So, Social Security, why not everyone, excuse me, why not everyone will get an 8.7% COLA increase in 2023. So let's go through this article really quickly. Social Security recipients will soon find out what their new monthly payments will be in 2023 after the 8.7% cost of living adjustment, also known as the COLA, kicks in. Beginning in December, the Social Security Administration will start mailing COLA notices to beneficiaries, providing details on next year's payments amount. Also worth noting, guys, you've probably seen other creators talking about this as well. That letter you get from the administration, hold on to that letter. Sometimes you're going to need that, whether you're qualifying for a loan. They essentially, when you're getting a loan, they want to see your income. Social Security is your income. So you're going to want to save that letter. If you're qualifying for kind of financial assistance, like utility assistance, affordable housing, things like that, all these different programs are going to want to see this proof. So make sure you hold on to that letter, okay, in case you guys didn't really have that in mind. Now, you might wonder why you have to wait for the SSA, the Social Security Administration, to tell you the new payment when you could simply multiply your current payment by 8.7%. Now, that's technically not how it works, however. Some payments will increase higher than 8.7 and some will be lower. Now, the good news here, guys, is that basically everybody's, because of the Medicare premium going down, basically everybody's, when you net everything out, right? You subtract, you have to round down 10 cents, then you have to round down by a dollar. And if you're just joining the stream, I'm going to explain that again shortly what that is. You do those rounding rules, but then when you add in the $5.20, which is the reduction in the Medicare premium, you're going to end up getting more than 8.7%, right? So that's the good news. Now, the reason is that COLA is applied to your primary insurance amount, also referred to as the PIA, rather than your current benefit. And the two are not always the same. Now, essentially, what they're talking about here is your PIA is your full retirement benefit. Now, at this stage, the benefit is neither reduced for early retirement or increased for delayed retirement if you take benefits at full retirement age. The PIA formula is quite complicated. It's based on the sum of three percentages. This is basically the formula they use to calculate your full retirement benefit, right? Now, the age you start collecting Social Security retirement benefits is an important consideration in terms of your COLA, because this is when you're going to have reductions or increases in what your payment is. Now, if you claim your benefits at a different age, the Social Security Administration runs another calculation to adjust the PA up or down. For those who claim early or late, people who claim benefits before their full retirement age typically get lower payments, while those who wait until they're over full retirement age will get a boost in their payment, right? So in some cases, you might get a higher COLA than 8.7 because Medicare Part B premiums will go down in 2023. That's the main reason most folks are actually going to get slightly more than 8.7, which is good news, but obviously still not large enough. We need a bigger increase. However, your COLA could be less than 8.7% if you have already started collecting Social Security but plan to sign up for Medicare, right? So essentially, what they're saying here is if you were on Social Security at 62, now you're going to start collecting Medicare at 65. Now that premium is going to start taken out, right? This is actually a situation that happened with my mother-in-law, similar situation, and she didn't know where the payment was coming from. She was like, "Well, I was paying for Medicare." Her situation was like slightly backwards. She was taking Medicare at 65, but then she didn't start taking Social Security till 66 or 67. So what was happening was she was paying for her Medicare premium out of her pocket. You know, she got a bill or whatever it was every month. She paid that premium every month. Then she started getting Social Security, and then she just didn't have any more bills coming in the month, right? Because it was coming directly out of her benefit. She didn't realize that. She was like, "Well, I think, I think now that I'm full retirement age, my Medicare premium is free now." And I had to explain to her, like, no, it's actually already being taken out of your Social Security benefit, right? A lot of people don't realize that. And it's surprising, but you could end up in a situation where you didn't realize, hey, why is my benefit going down? Well, it's because you were on Social Security, then you added Medicare, and now the Medicare is coming directly out of your benefit, right? In case you guys didn't know, that is actually a massive important detail, right? It's a simple detail, but it's an important detail, okay? All right, so let's jump to the Social Security website, guys. And again, I'm repeating this stuff for people that are just joining the show, okay? Because I'll run this show for about an hour, and the average person only watches for like 15 minutes, okay? So if you're just joining the show, I'm going to explain exactly what is going on here, what this is. If you've already been watching the show, guys, this is pretty much going to be the same stuff. But if you want to hang out, I'm going to be answering all your comments at the very end of today's show, okay? So basically, I'm going to summarize here what the Social Security website says. This is their exact website here. They say that COLA is technically not applied to the benefit you get every month, which is usually different than your full retirement benefit, right? And they call this full retirement benefit your PIA, okay, your primary insurance amount. And because this COLA is applied to your PIA or your full retirement benefit, it slightly ends up differing from what you would think it would be if you just multiplied your current benefit by 1.087%, right? By an 8.7% increase. And the reason for that is because a couple of these rounding rules, okay? And if you're just joining the show, I'm going to explain exactly what this is, but let's quickly read what the Social Security website exactly says. Now, a COLA increases a person's Social Security retirement benefit by approximately the product of the COLA and the benefit amount. The exact computation, however, is more complex, which is what we're about to show you here. And I also want to point out that if you took benefits at full retirement age, and you should know what that is, this doesn't affect you because essentially then your full retirement age is the exact same thing, your PIA, as what your benefit actually is. But if you took benefits before full retirement age or after, this will affect you because your benefit is then multiplied either by a reduction, right? For most people, 70% at age 62, or an increase if you take benefits, if you wait until you're 70, okay? Now, COLA says a couple of rounding rules here. They say that one, the COLA is applied to your PIA, which is the same thing as your full retirement benefit. And this result is rounded down to the nearest dime, okay? Now, this dime is not a massive dip number here, but it is something, okay? When you have 70 million people on benefits and you're rounding down for everybody, you're keeping the change there, right? And it's going to add up for the government. Everyone's going to lose, a couple dollars here and there, but it's going to add up for them, right? You'd think they would round up in good faith, but they don't, right? Even let's say, for example, your benefit is $1,000.99. They're going to round down to that 90 cents, right? They're not going to round up. They're going to round down to that 90 cents. Then what they're going to do here is subtract Medicare, right? They subtract your premium. And once they subtract that premium, they round down to the nearest dollar, okay? So let's add these things up. You were at 99 cents. Let's say $1,000.99. Instead of rounding up to that dollar, they rounded down to 90 cents. Now they're going to subtract the Medicare premium, which, whatever that might be. Then they round down to the nearest dollar again, right? So let's say in that example, you ended up at that 90 cents because they rounded down by 10 cents. Now they're going to round down again all the way to the other dollar, right? So you're losing that entire dollar. And then that payment is going to get multiplied by whatever your reduction is here, okay? So if you took benefits at 62, all of you should know you didn't get your full retirement benefit. Most of you took a 70% uh, payment, right? So 30% reduction, 70% of what your payment would have been. So they round down a couple of times like that. Then they multiply by zero point 0.7 or 70%. And that's what your benefit ends up being, right? And because they rounded down by 10 cents and then rounded down by basically almost a dollar and then multiply that by 0.7%, you're basically losing a couple dollars every month, right? And 8.7%, it might not make that massive of a difference. It might only be, 8.5% that you got, right? But it's a difference when you're living on a fixed income and you need that money, right? Now, if you're making 30K a month, a year on your benefit, or 25K a month, and you have a 401k as well, you're not necessarily that worried about a fraction of a percentage here and there, $5 here and there, but a lot of people are, okay? And that's why we're sharing this news here. And worth noting, if you guys are just joining the show, and you've probably heard this a million times before, the Medicare Part B premium has gone down from $170.10 to $164.90, which means everyone will get an additional $5.20 in their pocket every single month. So, because of this outlying factor here, right, this rare little treat here, right, this little carrot the government gave us for once, because of that, most people are actually going to get more than an 8.7% cola, right? Most people are going to end up probably getting like an 8.8 or something like that, a little slightly higher of an increase. Technically not part of the cola, but it will increase because of, this Medicare premium going down. So guys, hope that makes sense. I really want you guys to apply this to your situation. If you have to rewind the video, pause it, apply this to your exact numbers and let me know how much of a difference this made in your benefit. And again, whatever your benefit says it will be on that letter that Social Security sent you, that's what your benefit's going to be, okay? I don't want to cause any confusion here. What I'm telling you here is not going to conflict with that. It's just basically explaining to you how they got to that number there, right? If that kind of makes sense. That is what your benefit's going to be. But surprisingly, this does affect the majority of people on benefits. And guys, again, if you're just joining the show, I want to play this clip from Bernie Sanders. He is explaining the Social Security Expansion Act, which would not only add a $200 per month increase for an entire year on benefits, but also most experts say it would actually fund Social Security and make it solvent for an additional 75 years. So let's get it done, right? Let's do this. Why not? Why not do this for the American people, right? And again, if you guys have been watching this show, I mean, we've been on for 53 minutes. If you guys have been on for 53 minutes, thank you so much for sticking around. But you probably already saw this video earlier. If you joined in the last 30 minutes or so, this video is going to be new for you. Stick around. It's really powerful to see what Bernie Sanders says, fighting for seniors and fighting for folks who are in retirement to try and bolster these programs, right? And again, if you want to stick around, I'm going to answer everyone's comments right after this clip. But let's take a look and see what Bernie Sanders has to say.
Social Security is, I think, as everybody knows, one of the most popular and successful government programs in the history of our nation. For more than 80 years, in good times and bad, Social Security has paid out every benefit owed to every eligible American on time and without delay. And I think it's important to make that point. We live in a moment of great insecurity, and yet Social Security, since its inception, has never failed the American people and remains a program enormously important to them and one that they can rely upon. Not once over more than 8 decades of operation, not during the pandemic that we're in, not during the Wall Street crash, has anyone ever received a letter or a phone call from the Social Security Administration saying, sorry, the economy is not doing well, we need to cut your benefits? Never happened. And if I have anything to say about it, it never will happen. Today, while many people take Social Security for granted, it's been around for a long time, let us remember, before Social Security was created in 1935, about half of our nation's seniors were living in poverty. Today, though the poverty rate is still too high for seniors, that rate is just 8.9%. 50% before Social Security, less than 9% today. Got to do better, but that is a significant improvement. Without Social Security, it is estimated that some 22 million Americans including more than 16 million seniors, would be living in poverty. Yet, despite this important success, we should be clear that tens of millions of senior citizens are still struggling today to make ends meet, and many older workers are scared to death, literally frightened to death, that they will never be able to retire with any shred of dignity. According to the most recent data that I have seen, 12% of seniors in America are trying to live on an income of less than $10,000 a year. Got that? 12% less than $10,000 a year. I don't know how anyone can live, seniors or otherwise, on less than $10,000. And equally important, 55% of seniors are trying to survive on less than $25,000 a year. Think about that. And when you're a senior, you're dependent on prescription drugs and healthcare, trying to keep your home warm, trying to make it. On 25,000 years, that's more than half of the seniors in America. Adding insult to injury, and this is an enormously important point that I think we don't make often enough, about half of older Americans, those who are 55 years of age and older, have no retirement savings. Got that? You're 55 years of age in America, you've worked your whole life, you got zero in the bank for when you retire. And they are dependent on a Social Security benefit today that is less than $1,540 a month on average. Now, despite what some politicians have been saying for years, Social Security today is not on the line going broke. Social Security has a $2.85 trillion surplus in its trust fund and can pay out every benefit owed to every eligible American for the next 13 years, okay? Social Security, you pay out all your benefits for the next 13 years. But what the actuaries want, what I want, what I think most people want is more than 13 years. The actuaries talk about 75 years being the kind of number that we should have as we go forward. After that 13 years, Social Security estimates that there will be enough funding. Social Security Administration estimates that there will be enough funding available to pay 80% of promised benefits. So you got all benefits for the next 13 years, 80% after that. Now, given that reality, our job, in my view, is not to cut Social Security, is not to raise the retirement age, as many of my Republican colleagues would have us do. Our job is to expand Social Security so that everyone in America can retire with the dignity that he or she deserves, and that every person in this country with a disability can retire with the security they need. And that is what the Social Security Expansion Act that I have introduced today, along with Senators Warren, Whitehouse, Merkley, Van Hollen, Padilla, Booker, and Gillibrand, is all about. This legislation has been endorsed by many, many organizations, including the AFL-CIO, the Alliance for Retired Americans, Social Security Works, the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, the American Federation of Teachers, and many, many other organizations. According to a letter, this is an important part of what this hearing is about today, according to a letter that I received from the Social Security Administration this morning, this legislation will fully fund Social Security for the next 75 years and expand benefits for senior citizens and people with disabilities. Now, how do we do that? How do you expand benefits and make Social Security solvent for the next 75 years, which is, I think, what the American people want? Well, the answer is not complicated. At a time of massive income and wealth inequality, at a time when billionaires pay an effective tax rate lower than the average working person, at a time when the very richest people in this country are becoming much richer, this legislation demands that the wealthiest people in this country start paying their fair share of taxes. Today, absurdly and grossly unfairly, there is a cap on income subject to Social Security taxes. That cap is now about $147,000 a year. Now, what does that mean? It means that if you are a multi-billionaire, you pay the same amount of money into Social Security as someone who makes $147,000 a year. Got that? It means that if you make $147,000 a year, you pay 6.2% of your income in Social Security taxes. But if you make 10 times more than that, 1,470,000, you pay 0.6% of your income in Social Security taxes. All of this is taking place at a time of massive income and wealth inequality. Now, that may make sense to somebody. It does not make sense to me. Our legislation applies the Social Security payroll tax on all income, including capital gains and dividends, for those who make over $250,000 a year. Under this legislation, 93.6% of households would not see their taxes go up by 1 penny. So the overwhelming majority of the American people would not see any increase in their taxes under this proposal. The tax increase in our legislation only applies to the wealthiest 6.4% of all Americans, those who make $250,000 a year or more. Further and importantly, under this bill, Social Security benefits would be increased by $2,400 a year for both new and existing recipients, lifting millions of seniors out of poverty. In addition, under this bill, we would increase COLAs for senior citizens by more accurately measuring the spending pattern for senior citizens through the Consumer Price Index for the elderly. Now, one of the reasons that I called this hearing, and I'm glad that Senator Graham has been able to be here, is that there is, in fact, a strong philosophical difference between many of us in the Democratic caucus and many in the Republican caucus as to the best way forward with regard to Social Security. And that's kind of the discussion we're going to have today. While virtually all members of the Democratic caucus are on record in support of expanding Social Security benefits, the Republicans, by and large, have taken a very different approach. And I'm delighted, and I hope they will show up, that some of the Republicans who have taken strong positions on this issue, I see Senator Romney's here, and I'm glad that is the case. Look forward to hearing from him. That some of the Republicans who have taken strong positions on this issue are on this committee. And I know that they're going to be explaining where they come from, and I look forward to that debate. Earlier this year, Senator Rick Scott, the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, released a plan that would sunset Social Security every 5 years, raise taxes on millions of seniors, and jeopardize the guaranteed income of 65 million Americans who depend on Social Security. Just a few months ago.
All right, folks. So for those of you just joining, that was just a quick clip I wanted to share with you all with Bernie Sanders explaining his Social Security Expansion Act. This is something that would increase benefits by $200 per month across the board for 12 months, would be a massive help. Reports also say it would increase taxes to the point where Social Security would be funded insolvent for 75 years. So that's a massive, huge deal. Hopefully we'll have that on the forefront here in 2023 with the new Congress taking place on January 3rd. And if you guys are just joining the show, guys, I'm going to quickly recap what exactly we spoke about, right? Why these headlines are saying that a lot of people's COLAs are not going to be exactly 8.7%. Now, I'm going to quickly recap because we talked about it more in-depthly earlier in the show. So if you want to see a lot more details, just rewind to the beginning and watch the whole thing. Quickly going to recap here that, first of all, this surprisingly does apply to most people on benefits, which is surprising. And the reason it does is because it's going to apply to basically everyone who did not retire at full retirement benefits, okay? So if you took benefits early or late, this will apply to you. And essentially what this is referring to is the Social Security Administration. They directly say that these COLAs do not apply to your monthly payment that you get every month. They first apply to your PIA, which is your primary insurance amount, which is the same thing as your full retirement benefit, or what it would have been if you had waited until full retirement age. Then the real kind of stickler here is they take that number, right? So let's say they multiply it by the COLA. They take that number and they round it down to the lowest dime, okay, to the nearest dime. And because of that, that round down, that is what gets multiplied by zero point 0.7 or 70%, whatever your benefit's going to be lowered to, right? So, for example, if you took benefits at 62, right? Most of you know this. Your benefit is 70% for most of you of what it would have been, right? So they round down to the nearest dime, then they multiply by zero point 0.7. That is what they're talking about when you see all these articles. Not only that, once they subtract the Medicare payment, right, that premium, they round that down to the nearest dollar as well. So basically, the government loves to round down, right, when it comes to giving you your money. So they round down to the nearest dime. They also round down to the nearest dollar. And then that PIA is multiplied by 70% or whatever your benefit is, right, depending on when you took benefits. This is why usually what ends up happening is your COLA is very slightly lower, right? Maybe let's say 8.6% instead of 8.7%. So it's not a massive difference, nothing crazy, right? You might lose out on a couple of dollars a month, but for people on fixed incomes, those extra couple dollars could make a big difference, right? And we also kind of noted in today's show that actually, oddly enough, this year, because the Medicare premium went down by $5.20, the average person is actually going to save $5.20 per month, meaning the average person's kind of COLA, not really the COLA, but overall increase will be slightly more than 8.7%, right? If that makes sense. And again, I want to reiterate this doesn't conflict with the letter they sent you from the administration. That is what your benefit's going to be. This is just explaining how they got there, right? Now, another example of how your COLA could be different or your payment could be different is actually a really good comment here in the comments of today's video. We had someone, I won't call her name out, I'm not sure if she wants me to, but she actually cashed out her 401k, so she sold some of her stocks. And because of that, her that gets treated as income, and now she's in a higher tax bracket and her Medicare Part B premium actually went up, right? So these things are complex. Depending on your situation, your premium could have gone up or down. Most people's went down, and most people are getting a slightly larger increase because of that, right? So, with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you guys like this content, like and subscribe. Don't be afraid to comment in the live stream here. At the end of my shows, I try and take a couple of minutes to respond to your comments. So, again, if you guys like this content, please subscribe. I post a lot of updates like these. And again, if you guys want to support my work and get free stocks, completely free money, you can sell the stocks immediately if you'd like. Click on the link in the description of this video. This is my partner, Webull. They're completely registered and licensed, completely legitimate brokerage. You have to fully create your account. You have to go through the entire process and deposit even just 1 penny, and you'll get up to 12 stocks valued up to $3,000 each, folks. So it's free money. You might as well do it, and I'll get a free stock as well, right? But really quickly, guys, to end today's show, I'm going to quickly go through the comments here. So if you guys want to stick around, otherwise, I'll see you on the next show. So Watch City said that his COLA increased by $74 and his rent went up $53. Yeah, I'm sorry, Watch. That's one of the hard things with living on a fixed income on benefits, right? You have this fixed increase that's not going to be much, right? This fixed income. And then you have your rent going up, you have inflation happening. So you have a lot of people who, rent is very different across the country, right? So your COLA could put you up $200 and then your rent could go up $300. And then you could try and move, but it's going to cost you a few grand just to move. So I completely see where you're coming from, Watch. Jazz, your COLA was 8.7. What does this headline mean? Jazz, I hope this video kind of explained what I was talking about. Faith, thanks for being here. You are always here. Nancy, welcome to the show. Tim, welcome to the show. Joanne, she said, what do you mean not 8.7? Joanne, I hope you stuck around and I hope that's what made sense. Yes, the letter you received is what your increase will be. This video just kind of explained how they got there. Let's see here. Donna said, I did mine and my total income added 8.7. Some survivors do get close to the average. Yep. So, yes, most people, it's going to be around 8.7, but it's going to slightly differ. Princess, is that for disability? Also, I got the letter. Okay, so for the Princess, good question. So, for those of you on disability, specifically Social Security disability, not SSI, you're treated as full retirement age, right? So, if you qualified for SSDI, They essentially treat that as full retirement benefits. So this really doesn't apply to you as much, if that makes sense, Princess. They're basically treating you as if you took benefits at full retirement age. All right. Let's see here. Annabelle, thanks for joining the show. Tony, thanks for joining the show as well. Yes, Bernie Sanders is amazing. Donna said, will we have to pay benefit taxes on our benefits, on our survivor benefits, if we were not the wage earner? Yes, Donna. If your benefit is above those income limits, right, you will start having to pay taxes on it, even if it's a survivor benefit. You will, unfortunately. It's terrible, but it's true. Helen said, the government isn't happy unless they steal from you. Yeah, and then they send too much money to Ukraine. Well, yep, folks, let's just say they love to round down, right? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope it made sense. Hope it kind of clarified some things and kind of shows you that uh, even though it's slightly different, it's not going to affect you negatively too much. And actually, that Medicare premium going down is more than going to make up for that for the majority of people, guys. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next show, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.